So, guys, I wanted to start with like a huge celebration of you for being here, because I just want to say, like, you are like the 1%, the 2%, the 3% that would show up for something like this, and do not underestimate that. No matter how you're feeling in your life right now, whether you're in this stage of thinking like I'm really aligned, I know where I'm going, or if you're in the like I am a little bit lost right now and feeling misaligned, like you're already so many steps ahead of so many people just by taking this time on a Sunday morning to be here, and especially to be here live. It's really freaking cool. So please acknowledge that. I took this quote from Paige and so many quotes from Paige because you send me the best things on Instagram. But you can always be happy, but you can always be brave. And that is the beginning of everything. I love this quote. Like, no matter how you are feeling, you can always choose to be brave one day. And everyone is brave for showing up right now. So big shout out, acknowledgement to you guys. So thank you for the claps, Adrian. Because you're about to like listen to me blab on for an hour and a half, first I wanted to try to do breakout rooms. Full discretion, guys, that I have not tried the breakout rooms on Google Meet before, but I've Googled and YouTubed how to do this. And so I am really hoping it works. And you might have to bear with me for 1 second while I get them organized. But the idea, I think it's like there's a lot of cool people in this room, and there's people who I know from all different facets of my life. So I think it's cool for you to get to meet one another for like a few minutes and just get to know one other person who's doing cool things and doing brave things in the world, and just like expand your circle. And you can also really never underestimate the value of these like off chance connections. Like sometimes one person will connect you with the person that's going to introduce you to the person you'll marry, or like they're going to help you get a job, or they'll help you sign your next client, or you'll just be friends, or you'll connect, or maybe you'll talk to this person for 2 minutes and you'll never speak to them again. And that's also cool. But I find a big thing for people who are living a bit differently, they have their values in a different place, is that if you do not surround yourself with others who see things the same way, you're going to feel completely crazy and you're going to feel lost half the time. So we are going to take this opportunity to do about 5 minutes in the breakout rooms. We're fine. All right, welcome to the Against the Grain Masterclass, guys. For rebellious humans seeking courage and direction to go after their soul's purpose, or conviction to keep going as they forge their own brave path. So hopefully you got the brave activity as a bit of a precursor to all this. So something about masterclasses and just like coaching in general that I wish someone had told me sooner is that when you go to something like this, you don't have to remember every tip you hear. You don't have to write down every framework you hear. Our brains are actually like designed to pick up the information that we need to most pick up. So if there's like one story, one quote, one thing that stands out to you in this presentation, it's because that is the thing you are meant to remember. And honestly, I want to invite you to like leave the rest behind. Same goes for when you're reading a book or listening to a podcast. Don't feel like you have to take it all in. Take in the part that resonates with you, because that's the part that most applies to your life in this moment. So I want to invite you to do that during this masterclass. Okay. So for our agenda, I did it straight up what I wrote in my initial Instagram post. I wrote that Instagram post before I created the content, and what came out of me was like, I knew I was meant to write about these things because of how well it all came together. It was really cool. So we're going over proof that despite what you've been told, pursuing your soul's purpose is actually the most rational and logical thing to do with this lifetime. Mindset hacks for making major decisions without major regret. And then ground rules for anyone going against the grain to help you stay committed, set up for success. And then also what I want to do about all of this. And I love how you guys are connecting in the chat. That makes me happy, and that makes me feel like the breakout rooms actually worked. So that's really cool. Okay, so let's talk about it. What does it mean to go against the grain? So I'd love for you guys to like throw in the chat like what you think this definition means. You sign up for a masterclass called Against the Grain. Like, what does that mean to you? I'll give you a second. At least one of you has to type something. Otherwise, I'm going to stand awkwardly. Thank you. Adrian says, unique path, Shelby, not conforming to what everyone else is doing, what's conventional. Yeah, love both of those. Anna, to build from the heart. Ooh, I love that. Julia, going against what society says is normal. Yes, Kate, going against societal norms, creating life you want, escaping the matrix, unlearning what we've been brainwashed to believe. Sarah, following your intuition versus external factors. Yes, guys, I'm so in alignment with all this. Lindsay, being in alignment. I created my own definition, and it's actually really aligned with what all of you guys have said. It will let me keep going. What it means to me. So basically what you guys have said, letting go of how you should live your life and letting go of what others are doing and their opinions of how you should live your life and what you should be doing. And instead living in a way that aligns with your values, authenticity, and intuition, best utilizes your strengths and gifts, and brings you the greatest sense of growth and fulfillment during your lifetime. To me, this is going against the grain. And something that really inspires us to, in my mind is, I'm sure many of you guys have probably heard this before, but there's this woman, Bonnie Ware, who spent 8 years working in palliative care, working with those who were dying. They had between 3 to 12 weeks left to live. And she wrote a book about the most common regrets of the dying. And this was the #1 most common regret of the dying. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. To me, that captures really what going against the grain is about. It's living that life that's true to yourself. And I also need to make a call out right now that there's a lot of stuff on Instagram right now, right, guys? Like basically saying that if you want to go against the grain, you have to be a digital nomad, work online only 4 hours a day somehow, and live in Bali forever or something like that, right? I want to just say, fuck that. Like, that is not what going against the grain is about. If that's the life that calls you and feels true for you, then yes, I'm very much going to encourage you during this presentation to build that life for yourself. But I want you to know that if you think you should have to like quit your job and start a business and go work in Bali or something, but that's not what you want, then you're not going against the grain. That's not what it means to go against the grain. It means living true to you. So it doesn't have to look like this. It can look like this, but otherwise it might look like not letting materialism rule your life, or wanting to do good in the world and actually make a shit ton of money while doing it. Because for the longest time, we've been fed this rhetoric that you can't do good and also make a lot of money. So you can challenge that. That can be going against the grain. Or it could also be making an empowered decision to actually earn less money in your life and find out how to spend less, work less, and then spend more time with people you love or doing things you love. That can also be going against the grain and saying no to that idea that you have to be on this constant hamster wheel of needing more and more and more. It might also be making an empowered decision to enjoy your 9 to 5. And again, not listening to the Instagram posts that say you have to go be a digital nomad if that's not what aligns for you. You can say, I'm going to enjoy this life in my 9 to 5. I'm going to make positive changes in my workplace, and I'm going to take ownership for my well-being and happiness. That also might look like choosing to prioritize healing or natural medicine over the conventional Western medicine. And it also very much could look like starting your own business. So some of this will be focused on entrepreneurship, because I do find that for a number of people who decide to go against the grain and people that tend to be in my world, that's a path that you tend to take. But I want to call out at the beginning of this presentation, it doesn't necessarily mean that. Okay, so we've discussed that going against the grain sounds like a really positive thing. You all wrote beautiful things in the chat here about what it means. So then the question is like, why don't most people do it? Like, isn't it obvious that you'd be happier, or like it seems like it's a good idea based on what we just discussed? So my take is that it's fear of uncertainty. It's that we don't know what will happen if we actually do what we want to do. And sometimes that manifests as fear of disappointing others, fear of what others will think, fear of failure, but ultimately it's this fear of uncertainty. So that leads me into like the first official section of this presentation, because yeah, that makes sense. Our brains are wired to keep us safe, and doing what everyone says we should do should keep us safe, right? And should set us up for success, right? It makes sense until it doesn't. So here's my proof that pursuing your purpose is the most rational and logical thing one can do with this lifetime. Okay, I've really simplified this, and I like to use illustrations to make my point. So bear with me for my funny little stick figures here. But here's like your conventional path of life, right? So Western society basically tells us, like, make sure you do certain things, this whole part, like this entire 0 to 65, so that you can ensure certainty once you get to 65. That is what a lot of Western society tells us to do. And it's like letting go of our health right now to make sure that we have a retirement savings account, basically. Like health, happiness, so many things. This is maybe an exaggeration, but stick with me, right, guys? So a lot of messaging we're fed from the time we were growing up tells us this. However, the only constant in life is change. The only thing that stays the same in the world is that things are always changing. There's pretty much no other constant. So the idea that if you just follow certain rules and then you'll get to have certainty at 65 is an illusion. Like, it is not real. Anything could happen any day. We are not even guaranteed to be here next week, let alone know that at 65 we're going to have the health and others that we love will have the health and other things to actually enjoy, like the retirement that we're promised, right? Like, this is all an illusion. Certainty basically is an illusion. Well, I actually want to call it that. Most forms of certainty are an illusion, because there actually is something that's pretty certain, guys. Remember, my definition and your definitions were very similar of what it means to go against the grain. It's letting go of how you should be living and instead living in a way that aligns for you. Following your heart, building from your heart, going against what people say you should do. And what I can tell you, one thing that's certain, if you do not live this way, you are pretty much guaranteeing that you're going to feel dissatisfied today and at the end of your life. So basically, if you don't go against the grain, so that means not living in alignment with your values, authenticity, and intuition, if you are living in a way that does not utilize your strengths and gifts, and if you are living in a way that does not bring you the greatest sense of growth and fulfillment, and instead you just do what everyone else says you should do, not only are you not guaranteeing certainty at 65, because we've already discussed that anything can happen at any given moment, so that does not exist, but what you are doing is pretty much guaranteeing this sense of dissatisfaction your entire life, no matter how long your life is, whether you live to next week or till 96, and you're actually lowering your chances of even being successful at 65. Because frankly, if you are living in a way that's not in alignment with the way you want to be living, and you're not utilizing your greatest gifts, and you're doing what people say you should be doing and living for other people instead of yourself, you're not going to be happy. And that means you're not going to be as successful. And even if we define successful on the terms of how Western society puts it, in terms of like making a lot of money, having that retirement fund and all those things, like, you're less likely to have those things if you're living in a way that makes you very unhappy, because you're not going to be intrinsically motivated at work. You're going to be like always forcing yourself to do the next thing and just dragging yourself out of bed, instead of when you're living in alignment and going against the grain, you're waking up with like a sense of purpose and excitement. And when you do that, you energetically attract so much more success into your life. So that's basically my rant on why pursuing your life's purpose is arguably the rational thing to do with your life and not the other way around. I wanted to leave you with a couple of quotes that stood out to me on this topic. So Helen Keller, avoiding danger is no safer in the long run than outright exposure. The fearful are caught as often as the bold. This diagram also partially inspired those previous ones that I created. This is what a lot of people end up doing. I think it speaks for itself. And to me, this one probably hits the deepest. Michael Jordan. I can accept failure. Everyone fails at something, but I can't accept not trying. On the days that I am like, what am I doing? Can I keep doing this? This is the line that keeps me going. I cannot accept not trying. So we are going to now do a 4-minute reflection for you guys. And I was like, is this activity too intense? And then I was like, no, because honestly, it's the truth. And I'm someone who doesn't like to, sugarcoat things. So if you received a signed letter from the universe informing you that this was your final week on Earth, and I'm sorry if this feels intense, but again, it could be. So I'm just helping you align with the way that life actually works. I want you to reflect on, what would you rush to do or say? Is there something you're holding back on telling someone? What parts of your life would you feel proud about? And lastly, this might be the most important. What would you regret about the way you are living right now? Because this woman who wrote this book about those who were dying, she writes about this in her book about how one of the best ways to know what you're going to regret when you're dying is to think about what you regret about the way you're living today. So I'm going to give you guys 4 minutes on my timer to reflect on these things. My thought was that I was going to play music, but I've realized it doesn't let me change tabs. So I'll leave it to you. If you want to put some music on your phone, I'm going to set a timer for 4 minutes. Actually, should I? You start. They're in the chat now, guys. You have 1 minute left. Okay, I'll give you 10 seconds to wrap up. Before I start sharing again, was that activity helpful? Was it impactful? Yeah, cool. Ooh, there we go. Okay, if there's anything that you feel called to share from that activity, feel free to put it in the chat. But for the sake of time, we're going to keep going as well, guys. So I think at this moment, all kind of in alignment on it makes sense to live in this way, right? Like we should live in a way that's true to the way we want to live. And I hope you also just take that past activity as like a helpful guide for some things that maybe you want to commit to this summer that will help you make sure you are living in alignment with your authenticity and going against the grain, as we're calling it. But here's something that I think trips a lot of people up, and something that I really did not know when I was starting this journey. And I hope it helps you too, or if nothing more, it's a reminder for you. So if going against the grain is clearly the thing that we, will help us feel most happy and aligned and fulfilled, why does it feel so hard? So there's two reasons. And the first is that your brain is doing its job. So especially in a society that is surrounded by people who are following the step-by-step rules, trying to get their certainty at 65, which is not actually guaranteed. If you are doing things differently yourself and living in a different way, naturally your brain is going to pick up on that, and it's going to basically put off alert oh my gosh, I can't say that word, signals that you are in danger. And it makes sense. Like, that's what our brains are designed for. And especially thinking historically, if you were to go against the tribe and try to go off and do your own thing back in the days of, us living not in the society we're in right now, it would have been very dangerous. And so your brain is trying to protect you, and it's going to constantly alert you to the fact that this is unsafe, and basically come up with a lot of reasons around why you shouldn't live this way. And it's just your brain doing its job. So I think it's important to recognize that. And reason number two, and this is the one that honestly really has just started to stick for me, it's this very common thought error. And if you were watching my Instagram stories, you got a little preview on this. But basically, the thought error looks like this. So if we're forging our own path in life and being brave and going after what we really want, what we expect to be the signs that we're on the right path are things like this: things happening with ease, friends and family supporting us, little to no internal resistance, and things working out the first time we try them. That's what we expect. A loving wake-up call. Those are signs that you're on the damn paved road. If you are forging your own path, if you are, instead of taking the road that everyone else takes, if you are trying to use your knife and cut through the forest, it is not going to feel like things are happening with ease. And there's actually good reason for this. So I want you to know that the actual signs that you're on the right path are that there's lots of resistance. You are overcoming challenges left, right, and center. That you might start to feel disconnected from other people, especially people who maybe you've known from early in your life, because you're starting to grow as a person. And that's a pretty sure sign of your growth. And also that you're failing a lot of times before things start to work. I think we've all seen those diagrams that show how much more you learn when you fail versus when you get some, or when you read about something. And so it means that you're rapidly learning and you're rapidly gaining resilience as you're overcoming these challenges left, right, and center. Because here's the real deal, guys. The deeper truth is that it's never really been in life about where this path takes us, this yellow road I've created for my illustrations here. It's never been about the path. It's always been about who we are becoming along the way. That is it. And so that's a certainty you can cling to. The challenges you are facing, they are shaping you into the person you're meant to be and the person who can handle future challenges. Like, that's something that's certain. And again, this illustration came from Paige. Thank you. Hopefully you're on the call right now. I know her computer's been acting up. But I think this is like a perfect illustration for this entire thing. And I'll tell you a bit from my story too. Like, I would have known 4 years ago that I would have wanted to get into some form of like life coaching or business coaching. But the thing is that like 4 years ago, everything in my life had gone like to the T. Like some of you have known me for a while. I was like valedictorian in high school, got perfect grades in university. Like things have been really, really easy. Oh, you're here, Paige. Awesome. And if I wanted to life coach 4 years ago, good luck to me. Imagine my clients facing a challenge. I'd be like, oh, well, I don't know what to tell you to do about that because I've never really faced a challenge like that. And now I can tell you that the last 4 years of my life, and especially the last 2 years, have been by far the hardest years of my life. But it's literally been me taking these boulders and building this path because I've had to walk myself through challenge after challenge after challenge. And guess what? That's been building me into the kind of person who can help others do that too. And if I hadn't faced those challenges, I would not be able to do this. So know that the challenges you are facing, they're shaping you into the person who is going to build the dreams you want to build. And it's not that like you just have to learn the lessons. It's like, if you want to become, if you picture that person of you want to be, and like, what would you put them through? This is coming from Alex Hormozy to be the person you want to be. Like, would you, if you think of the person in the future who's brave and resilient and strong and focused, if you want to build and shape that person, you wouldn't put them through super easy things where everything goes exactly how they want it to go, because then they're never going to gain confidence and resilience and those traits that we probably all want to gain. So the challenges are literally shaping you in a way that they're meant to. Okay. And we're right on time, guys. That is part one. We are on to part two. Major decisions without major regret. Any thoughts or comments in the chat, or is everyone with me still? Anyone need a break? We're good. Hopefully, yes. Okay. Alex Hormozy quote, "The heaviest thing in the world to carry around isn't iron or gold. It's an unmade decision." I love this. What we need to realize is that the cost of not making a decision is often far higher than the cost of making the wrong decision. And I really wanted to illustrate this. And so you're going to see a big illustration of it. But why is this, right? So one, unmade decisions, they have this energy opportunity cost. So the energy that you could be using to like solve your problem or get you to like the next phase you're trying to get to, instead it's just circling, thinking about the decision. And it's getting you nowhere. Instead of actually like digging in and figuring out what you need to figure out, you're just like sitting on the surface level and letting this energy circle, and it's wasted energy. So one reason they're so heavy, it's this energy opportunity cost. The second is the learning opportunity cost. And I have a really long visualization to show this, and I really hope it's powerful for you. Not gonna lie, these slides took a lot of time to put together, guys. But I'm gonna walk you through my life and show you this learning opportunity cost firsthand, okay? So, and I'm gonna speak to travel a bit in this. I know that there's a number of people here who have gone on like major trips, and also people who are gonna be watching the recording who then, like, it's one of the things that kind of got them on this alternative path or this unconventional path. Like traveling is a big way to like wake up that part inside of you that realizes, wait, I can live how I want to live and do things the way I want to do them. So that's absolutely what happened for me. Fall 2017, I went and lived in Spain for 4 months. And this was definitely the moment that like someone shook me and was like, you are allowed to live however you want. Like this was the moment I realized I could go anywhere, do anything I wanted. It was a complete wake up call for me. And it started to create a lot of dissonance inside of me because, you know, part of me always thought that I was just going to have this stable life and stable career. But then this trip really woke up that part of me that was like, wait, I can do anything I want with this lifetime. Okay. But, you know, life continued. And so I thought I'd kind of make a relative compromise with myself. So like I knew I wanted to do something big, but I also was a little bit afraid to do it. So I kind of took this in-between path where I went backpacking for 4 months about 2 years later before I started my corporate official job. And honestly, this just reinforced everything I just said from the previous slide, that I just realized like how much was possible, how much I was capable of. But in a sense, it was like my compromise because I did this 4-month trip. I also learned a lot about like how little I can survive off of. For example, I just had this backpack for the entire 4 months, which I think is honestly impressive. And anyway, after this, I was like, okay, now it's time for me to do what I should do. Like I was too afraid to like go after that unconventional path because of the uncertainty, like exactly like these diagrams we saw earlier, right? So I was like, okay, I'm going to do the thing I should do, which is, get the stable, good paying job. I got a job in management consulting. This is summer, fall 2019. Okay. So I'm going into the office every day. And frankly, like this part of my life, it was fun, but really I was partying every weekend. I spent every Saturday and Sunday completely hungover. I was like basically shopping to give me happiness. Like I was like going to Winners after work like every other day and buying something that I probably didn't need. And it was giving me this kind of like artificial sense of happiness and being okay. But the truth is that like deep down, I really wasn't happy. And I knew that, but I wasn't totally unhappy either. But I just knew I was leaving something on the table, right? And then thankfully for me, 2020 happened and COVID happened. So that obviously cut out all this partying and the shopping from my life. And it left a lot of space for me to start doing some introspective thinking. And some big things happened to me at this moment in my life. So I read this book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Well, okay, yeah. And this was a game changer for me because they do an exercise in this book where you basically visualize your own funeral and you picture the end of your life and you picture like what you'll be known for, what people will think of you. And I realized when I did this exercise that if things kept going perfectly the way I was going, like if I kept getting promotion after promotion in consulting and then I got the house and did all the things, I would still be dissatisfied at the end of my life. I literally played it out in my mind and I knew I would be unhappy because I knew I would be leaving something on the table. So after doing that exercise and realizing that, I wrote this piece of paper here, which was my personal mission statement, which was basically capturing the values that I wanted to live by. I did something similar to what we just did as the activity, and I wrote down like, what would I regret if I was to die next week? Or like if my life keeps going this way, what am I going to regret? And how instead do I want to make sure I'm living? And in addition to that, I started taking some coaching programs at this time. So I took an amazing program called The Clutch by Carl Lowenthal. And this was a huge piece for me too. So all of this happened, right? So basically now I'm at this stage in my life where I had to make a decision because again, this is all to present like a visual showing you of the cost of unmade decisions. So I want to show you the difference between that was Ariel in 2020. And, if I had made no decision at that time, basically I would have been saying this: I don't know what I want to do with my life yet, so I'm going to make no decision. But what I basically chose to do, as you're going to see, is I instead said this: I'll follow my intuition and take it one step at a time. Okay, and let's see how this played out. Okay, guys? So following year, so I did stay in that consulting role for another year. I'm not telling you to like watch this presentation and quit your job. But at that moment, I was like committed to start making small changes. And I knew when I saw an opportunity that felt right, I wasn't going to stay in consulting. And that basically is what happened in spring 2021. I started dating this guy. He was working in tech. And what he made me realize is that I could earn twice as much money and work half as many hours if I was to move to tech. And I knew I wanted to do something that was going to like better leverage my skills and help me make a positive difference. But I figured in the meantime, if I don't know how to do that, I'm going to be better off making more money and working half the hours. So I took what was a very scary decision and I left my management consulting job, which to date actually was still the hardest and scariest decision I've ever made, because I do find that once you start making scary decisions, the next ones get easier. The first one is usually the hardest. And for me, this was like leaving behind this very stable path that I knew was going to work. And I also had to take a $35,000 a year pay cut to move into tech, because to get into tech, you have to start at the bottom. So I took this big risk and I did that, right? As some of my friends know, that guy ended up kind of being a jackass. I got really sad, but still, it was fine. I had already moved into tech, so I continued to work my way up at that company, which was called Vidyard. So now I'm in sales and tech, right? So thankfully, things kept going in a positive direction despite the sad face you're seeing on the screen. And by winter 2022, not only had I got the promotion that I wanted in like less time than I expected, so I quickly made up for that $35,000 pay difference and started earning way more than I was making in consulting. But also, this was a fully remote job. So I started living and working from Costa Rica. Like I was actually living the dream. Like I had a remote job, could live in Costa Rica. Everything was like lining up for me, right? I even took just to prove and really make a point in this presentation to show you that money cannot buy you happiness. Here's one of my paychecks I got from that time in my life. $7,000, guys, went into my bank account. I got paid twice a month. I was making really good money in tech. Like it's crazy how much you can make in tech, right? But still, there was a part of me that knew this wasn't it. And I felt it in my heart. I knew. But let's look at where I'm at on this chart. Let's go back to this chart for a second. So if I had made no decision, I would have still been in consulting. So maybe I would have got one. I'm sorry, I'm going to admit Paige to the meeting because she has somehow fallen out. I may have gotten one promotion in my consulting firm, and I probably would have gained a little bit of experience in learning at that consulting firm. So that's the learning if I'd done that. Instead, I chose to go off option 2 here. I'm not sure why I have a paintbrush on my, okay, it's fine. And I gained like more experience because I moved into tech. I got sales experience. I got to live solo in Costa Rica. A lot of cool things happened. And I have no idea why it's not letting me move now. There we go. Okay, Brian's here. So Brian, you're part of the presentation. Hope you don't mind the picture I chose. Now so we're in spring 2022. I knew that I still wasn't quite living in alignment. And I took another risk. And I basically met Brian. I heard about this incredible company he was running, Actify Social. He's in the chat right now if you want to hit him up with this, guys. And I was like, this feels like my next move. And if you know the story, a lot of weird, intuitive and coincidences happened that made me kind of think this is meant to happen. But I took another major risk and I left my extremely well-paying tech job to join Brian and work with Actify Social. So this is what I was doing for the fall and summer of 2023. We were leading these like giant celebrations on the beach in Toronto. And Brian can speak to this. Like literally when I heard what he was doing, I was like terrified. I was like, how do we run these events? How do you have the confidence to do this? And listen, guys, by the end of the summer, I went from thinking that this was absolute madness and so scary to I ran one of these events by myself. I single-handedly, by myself, ran an event in Toronto, a yoga event with 130 people. And like, it just goes to show how much you grow when you push yourself outside your comfort zone. Like from the beginning of summer, I never would have thought I would do that. And by the end, I literally ran an event that looks just like this by myself. I also had to call it, this is when I got this tattoo that says Eres Grande, which is, sorry if my accent sucks, but you are big in Spanish. Brian and I, one day, we had to meet with Lululemon, or he set up a meeting with Lululemon, basically. And he thought that like maybe they would partner with us. And I went into that meeting thinking like, yeah, right, Lululemon's not going to partner with us. Like, what are the odds? But Brian had this like determination that it was going to happen. And we left the meeting and they were like, yeah, we want to partner with you. Like we started building a partnership with Lululemon. I think that's the moment I realized in my life, if you believe something is possible, it is possible, period. So like right after that meeting with Lululemon, Brian can speak to this because he was with me. I went and got this tattoo. You are big, because I realized like anything can happen if you believe it's possible. So anyway, if we're looking at my little chart here, maybe in this time I could have gotten like a second promotion in consulting. So yeah, my chart would have grown a little bit, but you can see it grew a whole lot more because I got all of this entrepreneurial experience. I gained confidence running large events. I got my first exposure to spirituality by making this choice with Actify. So again, the Ariel who chose to make a decision versus the me who didn't make a decision is gaining a lot more information. Okay. Flying, there's not a star. Low-key, I wasn't necessarily going to keep that video in there, but I forgot to change it. Anyway, hopefully you laughed. But on top of all this amazing experience I was getting, in in running these events and dipping my toes in entrepreneurship, something I'd always wanted to try. Also, a bunch of other cool things happened in my life. I started biking all over the city because I was trying to save money. And now like biking is one of my favorite things to do. So I gained this like really cool hobby and this confidence to bike in Toronto, which is something I never thought would happen. I also started serving at a restaurant to make some extra money, which ended up being like one of my favorite times in my life. And I made really cool friends. I love that experience. And I also started volunteering at a yoga studio in exchange for free classes. So that actually even added more to my chart. I got these other cool life experiences that were just like adding to like my understanding of the world. So yeah, Ariel, who's made a decision, is like really starting to look good here, guys. Winter 2023 comes along and I made another decision. And I like to think of this, like I think you have to always be wary about like shiny object syndrome versus building experience and making decisions. But like I really do look back on all these experiences and I can see that the whole time I've been moving kind of in this direction of wanting to run my own business, something that I'd wanted since I was a kid. So I don't feel this with shiny object syndrome, but I'm just going to call it out right now to say it because I do understand that we're jumping a lot of places. Putting together these slides was hard because my life has been so chaotic these last couple of years. Anyway, winter 2023, when I joined Brian for Actify Social, I really didn't know what it meant to be an entrepreneur and run a business. And at this moment, it kind of started to come to me that like I was best suited to kind of work independently and support Brian from the sidelines, which we're still great friends and we still do. And I kind of realized that I wanted to have my own business. So it's like an experience I needed to have firsthand to determine that. And this is the Snapchat I sent to my friends. I spelled Columbia wrong. Don't judge me. I didn't know at that time. When your computer glitches and you accidentally sublet your apartment for 3 months and book a one-way flight to Colombia to work on your business idea. So this is what happened. And I went and lived in Colombia for 3 months. And not only did I get like beautiful experiences like you can see here on the screen, I also learned so much about entrepreneurship at this time. And to be fair, at this point, I now know a lot of what I was doing was actually more like procrastinating. But I did, because I was just trying to kind of delay starting my business by learning everything about starting a business. But I can say I learned so much about email marketing, about social media marketing, about how to build funnels online. And like this really, really added to my stack of experience. Like I feel very confident with like online business now because of this time I spent investing and learning about it. So again, we're watching my experience just stack up on the version of me who made the decision. Spring 2023. One of the hardest times of my life. That was me a lot of days, honestly. And if you're going through a phase like this now, I want you to know that you are going to feel better on the other side. And like that's why I wanted to show the video, because you see how happy and uplifted I am right now. And I now know why that version of me had to go through the pain she went through. So if you're going through that right now, I want you to know that it's worth it. But what happened in spring 2023, basically, something else happened with a guy in Colombia. It's a very long story, but I came home with like my heart pretty shattered. And my business wasn't really taking off yet at that point. So I was feeling like very lost and directionless at this moment. But as life often does, this was all meant to happen. The serendipity that had to happen for me to meet Odetta was actually incredible because I met her at an event that I shouldn't have been at, and all these things happened, right? But this is Odetta, who I worked with last year. I know some of you here know Odetta, and I because of what happened and because I was feeling so lost, I decided to do a 10-week one-on-one coaching with her. And it was like, I think if I had to state like one of these things that changed my life the most, it was probably this coaching. Like this coaching brought me back into alignment with my intuition. It taught me so much about myself and my body. And it was just like the most beautiful experience. And I can really see why I had to go through that heartbreak in order to like basically find the courage to make an investment in myself and go for this coaching. So on top of all the things we've added, now I'm going to add this like deep connection to my intuition and this opportunity to build resilience. Okay, we're going to quickly finish off, but basically fall 2023. So this was just this past fall. I'm like realigned and I invested in a couple of other programs for entrepreneurs and I was like building my business. I was ready to go. You can see I had only 178 followers on my travel business at that time. I now have over 2,000 followers. It's because I really buckled down and got things done. And I learned, as you can imagine, like a ton at this time about how to build successfully on social media, about entrepreneurship, about perfectionism and how it had been holding me back previously. So my experience just continues to stack. And then last part of this story, winter 2024. Again, I was struggling when I was in Mexico. A lot of you know me personally, and a lot of you know I was going through it a little bit. But again, it came through, and it was really shaping me into the person that I am now and who I needed to be to get to my next level. Because I want to show you that I went through some hard times in Mexico, but it added this final block on top of my whole block of experience at this point, which was like navigating when times get tough, finding resilience to keep going, and also this idea of neutralizing failure, which is something I'll talk about another time, but was a really powerful lesson for me. And so in the end, if I had back in 2020 kind of said, I don't know what I want to do with my life, so I'm not going to make a decision. This is probably like how much perspective and experience I would have gained. Because instead I decided to say, I'll follow my intuition, take it one step at a time, look at the stack of experience I've gained. And because of this, today, I really do feel ready to move into life and business coaching because I'm standing on top of all of this life experience now and I can use it to help me. And if I had just, again, not made that decision, I probably still wouldn't know what to do. And I don't think, frankly, I could have done life or business coaching because I wouldn't have had all this life experience to guide me in doing so. So the obstacle literally is the way. Okay. I want us to do another quick reflection activity. So 2-minute journal. What decisions have you been putting off in your life and why? And thanks for everyone who's been sharing. Shelby, I appreciate your comment there. And everyone all of you, you're all awesome for listening and being here. Okay, I'm going to give you 2 minutes on this though. What decisions have you been putting off and why? Take a second to wrap up. So again, feel free to add anything to the chat that you feel like it would benefit you to share with the broader group. But the big reason I wanted us to do this activity before I keep going is basically this idea. Like we kind of agree that, or at least hopefully I've given you some perspective to the idea that unmade decisions are probably not serving us to an extent. But at the same time, like what is it that makes them so hard to make? Um, So I believe it's fear of making the wrong one. Like that's the thing that stops us from making decisions, right? It's this idea, what if we make the wrong decision? And so if you wrote about a decision that you're struggling to make right now, I'm hoping this next section can help, because what I want to show, in addition to the fact that we disagreed, the wrong decision sometimes is better than no decision at all. In addition to that, there really is no such thing as a wrong decision. And the reason I feel confident saying that is because we can never know the alternative. You can never know what might have happened if you'd made different decisions. Like, for all I know, if I stayed in consulting, then maybe one day I would have accidentally, like, I don't know, I don't want to be like really dark, but like maybe I would have like accidentally got in a car accident or something. Like, we can't know what life would have brought if we'd made a different decision, because there's like this whole path of events that we didn't get to see unfold. So it's impossible for me to say, oh, that was the wrong decision, because I can't prove it. Like, I'm here now to talk, or at least let's say 95% of the time you can't prove it. Maybe there's some severe circumstances where you might want to say otherwise, but for the most part, I think you can never know what would have happened otherwise. So knowing this, I want to share 3 really helpful mindset hacks that can help you making big decisions. So here's the first. And this is probably the biggest one that's gotten me through all of my big decisions in the last little while. Make a promise to be kind to future you. So the idea here, often we think we're scared of making the wrong decision, but we just said there's no wrong decisions. What we're really scared about is that we're going to be mean to ourselves about the decision we made. So, we're going to yell at ourselves. Like, basically, I could have been fearful that at this moment in my life, when like obviously my bank account is not where it would have been if I had stayed in consulting, or especially if I'd stayed in tech sales, as we just saw. And so it's not so much that I fear having made the wrong decision. It's that I fear being like, Aria, like, you suck for having done that. I'm so mad at myself for having made this wrong decision. Like, this sucks. Like, I'm being mean to myself. So we're not so much fearful of making the wrong decision. We're fearful of what we're going to say to ourselves about it. So you can really easily resolve this by just promising that you're going to be kind to the future version of you, no matter what. And that's exactly what I did. Like, I really remember leaving consulting and feeling this like pit in my stomach and feeling so nervous about it. But I made a commitment to myself that I was going to be kind to myself about having made that decision, no matter what. And that can be a really big reframe. Number 2, give future you more credit. So we often don't realize that the future version of us is going to have the ability to deal with what happens. Like, we start thinking, what if? Well, listen, like, the future version of you, they're not just going to lay on their back and give up. Like, they're going to keep figuring things out. And you should have faith that the future version of you will figure it out. So if you make the wrong decision, quote unquote, it's not like that's just game over. No, then future you is going to be resourceful and start to figure out how to navigate the consequences of whatever happened. And not only that, the future version of you is going to have a lot more information than you have right now. So it's really impossible to sit here in the present moment and try to figure out, what if this happened? What if this happened? What would I do? Because you don't have all the information that future you is going to have. But he or she is going to then be able to look at their resources, look at what they have at their disposal, and then figure things out. So just give the future version of you more credit and stop doubting them so much. And it's going to make it easier for you to make a decision today. And then here's the last one. I also have to give credit to Alex Hormozi for this kind of concept, because it did come from his podcast. It is impossible to live with no regrets. I think like that's what this is a huge mindset error again, or thought error that we're making, that we think that if we just make the right decisions, we'll live with no regrets. Wrong. Like, every choice you make has regrets. You don't get to have no regrets. You get to choose what your regrets are. So for example, for myself, like, if I wanted to have stayed in consulting, the regret I would have had to live with is not having tried during the years of my life where I probably had the least level of risk to go after my dreams. And the alternative regret that I am living with is not having as much money in my bank account right now. And so I just simply got to choose my regret. I actually think I'm going to make way more money than I ever would have if I'd stayed in consulting or tech with the path I'm on. I have a lot of confidence in myself. But regardless, like, in this moment, like, I'm choosing the regret. The regret I'm choosing is that I'm willing to risk some level of financial instability, and because I don't want to regret not going after my dreams. And so just think about what regrets are easiest for you to live with, because don't try to think you'll never have any regrets. Every choice comes with regrets. So just choose the regrets that you want to live with. And those are three ways that I've really changed the way I think about making choices that have made big decisions majorly help. And Shelby, I'm just seeing your comment now. I'm not sure exactly when you said this. I wish I'd stayed consistent on YouTube for the last 3 months. It makes me wonder where I could be right now if I stuck with it. I feel that a lot. But I think, again, this kind of goes back to what we said before, the idea of like your present moment regrets give you a lot of idea on around what you're going to regret in the future. So like Shelby 3 months from now is going to wish the same thing. So you now have this opportunity to commit to it now and leverage that version of you that already has a successful YouTube channel. And I would just like ask her for motivation or for the commitment to keep going when needed. Okay. We are coming close to the end, guys. My goal here was to make this an hour and a half, and I think we're right on track. So these are pretty simple, but these are some ground rules to stay sane for anyone living against the grain. Hopefully most of this conversation kind of gave you some ideas already, but a couple others I really wanted to call out. So make a rule for yourself: no contemplating life decisions when you're overtired, sad, hungry, etc. I don't know why it took me so damn long to decide this, but literally, like, I'll be really badly PMSing and then I'll spend the entire day contemplating whether I should have started my own business. Like, that was a bad idea. I just have realized that if I'm not in good spirits that day, I'm not going to spend and waste a whole day's energy questioning my life choices. I'm going to make these decisions and I'm going to think about my life on days that I feel neutral, like on days that I feel well fed, well slept, and my hormones are emotionally balanced. So I would really recommend just making a similar rule for yourself. Like, don't question your relationship or your job or all these things on days that you feel like you're up, like you're totally down or totally up. Like, just make a rule. Okay, oh, I'm having one of those days. I'm not allowed to think about this today. Like, you're allowed to do anything else you want. You can't think about the decision. Number 2, what you don't own owns you. I've had this saying for a while, but it just keeps hitting harder and harder the more I think about it. A friend of mine showed a video on his Instagram the other day that said, if it showed up right now, would you be ready to handle it? It's like we hold so much hidden from ourselves around, like, say you're trying to hit that next goal. But what you don't own owns you. Have you actually sat down and visualized, like, what will it mean for you to hit that next goal? Like, what level of responsibility are you going to have to take on? Who are you going to have to be and show up as consistently to be able to handle that level of success? If there's hidden things inside you that are secretly resisting you hitting that next goal, hitting your next level, you're always going to self-sabotage. I say more about this on the Instagram videos I posted the other day with the 4-quadrant chart. So go check those out if you want more on this. But basically, I've just realized that if you feel like you have doubts inside you, or you're unsure about something, or anything that's like subconsciously in you, it's always going to come and self-sabotage you. So instead, bring it to the surface. You get to own it. Write it down. Choose to release it. Don't just keep your doubts, your fears, your insecurities, all those things like hidden. What you don't own owns you. Embrace 50 Shades of Grey. Trying to make a joke here, kind of, but for real, if you are thinking in black and white, meaning if you are trying to make a choice and you're telling yourself it's A or B, or it's like, I do this or I don't, this works or I'm going to fail, I promise you, you are not thinking about it right, because the world, we do not live in a black and white world. We live in a gray world. Like, there are so many different options and alternatives and ways things can work. So if you are limiting yourself to think that like this works or I'm going to fail, or like I have to make A choice or B choice and those are the only choices, like, no, it's incorrect. If you're trying to make a choice, there's probably 50 variations of the exact same choice that we could come up with, not the like basically 50 alternatives for how you could go about that, kind of achieving that same goal. So if you find yourself where you're in like an A or B mentality, I want you to catch yourself and tell yourself, no, I need to embrace 50 Shades of Grey. This one, and I think this is one of the biggest, guys. Act as though your success is a foregone conclusion, and it will be. This has been my phone background for the last couple of months. When you start acting like it is going to happen, that is when you take the actions that make it happen. Like, period. And the opposite side of this, I loved this quote. It's from the ENFP Calling by Dan Johnston. Opposite take. If you want to guarantee failure, spend the majority of your time questioning what you're doing instead of doing what needs to be done. That way, you can avoid the work that will make you successful and maintain all your relationships by proving your doubters right, because people love to be right. Like, these are two sides of the same coin, right? If you believe it's going to happen, it will happen. And if you spend all your time questioning whether it's going to happen and kind of withholding effort because you're afraid of failure, so you don't go all in, like, that's what makes it not happen. And here's the thing about all of this, guys. I know that you probably know this, especially those of you who are here on this class or those who sign up for the recording. I know this is not the first time you've heard this kind of thing, and that, like, we know this stuff. Like, we know that if you believe you can, you can. It's not that we need to be told, it's that we need to be reminded. It's like we get on classes like this, we feel energized and we feel activated around it, and then we forget like a week from now. And quick, I'm gonna make this quite quick, but like, last little story about me, because this was same with me. My writing sucks. Don't judge me. But like, this is February 2024. I wrote, "What do I know? My energy can control my results. My mindset is more important than any business action I do or do not take. My brain's filled with things I should do, but I'm falling short. I'm being mean to myself, which helps nothing. I already know self-love and connection to energy are the keys. And then I'm preparing myself for failure before it's even happened. It's a self-defense mechanism." Yeah, sorry. My journaling is so hard to read, but hopefully you heard what I said out loud. I wrote all this on February 29th, 2024. Then what happened in March 2024? No surprises. I did $0 in sales in my business. I only made 2 Instagram posts, whereas previously I was doing 30 a month. I felt really lost. I had paid for some like inner child healing workshops. I could not attend that because I was just like so in this bad energy. And I almost went home multiple times. I was living in Mexico at this time, and I can't tell you how many times I pulled up the flights and wanted to go home. But like, something told me that there was a lesson I was meant to learn, and I was meant to keep going. And then April 2024, the universe kind of did its thing, thankfully. It's a long story, and I'm not going to go through all of it right now, but you may have watched my Instagram stories. There's a place called Mushroom Mountain in Mexico where I did a magical substance. And then the universe connected me with a person who gave me all this clarity on what I was meant to do next. And all these pieces fell into place. I'm not going to go through the whole story, but this recurring theme kept coming up in April, and like, I kept finding pieces of my life that reinforced that theme. So one thing was, when I was living in Mexico, we did this map activity where everyone had to like write one message and put it on their country. And the message I chose to write was, "Keep going, you're worth it." And I remember writing it, and honestly, I felt like disassociated from the person who was writing it. I'm like, I feel so unmotivated to keep going right now, but I still want to tell the other person to keep going. I don't know. It was like I wanted to share this message, even though I didn't know why. I also found this note from myself. So sometimes I do this, and I love this activity. It's something I recommend you guys consider doing too. But basically, I wrote a letter to myself, and I wrote it in November 2023, but I pretended it was May 2024. And you can read part of this if you want. I know it's hard to read, but basically the last thing I wrote: "I love you so fucking much. I'm so fucking proud of you. It's worth it. Keep going. But more importantly, you are." And again, this idea of like, keep going, like, it just suddenly, like, all these pieces in my life were like the words, keep going, keep going, keep going. And then this person who I met with, who ended up having a big impact on making me realize my next step, he also was like, "I want to give you a gift before you go. Sticker. Keep going." It was just like all these pieces. And that's really when I realized, I always kind of knew like the words, the carry-on coach, which was the name of my travel business. I knew it could kind of work with self-growth too, but I didn't really know like what kind of self-growth I would do or what movement I would lead. And like, the connection that hit for me was basically like, I want to create that room for people to come together so that we can all remind ourselves to keep going. I sent a message to my friend the other day, and it really kind of captured it because this was last month. I was literally like doing a voice note to her, and I said these words. I was like, how much would it have been worth for me to have a resource to help me like ride that wave I was going through in Mexico, let go of the resistance I was feeling to all the pain, and get back to a better energy? Like I was voice noting her, like I would have paid like anything for that because I lost a whole month of my business, and like I just didn't have a resource to turn to. And basically all this coming together has prompted an idea for me. So I want to launch something called the Carry On Crew. So I want to create a community for all of us who are going against the grain to like come together and remind ourselves to keep going. Because again, it's not the idea that we don't know that if we stay in the right energy and do the right things, it's going to happen. It's like, it's the problem of actually staying in that energy consistently. So a community for, you know, people going against the grain, or these are different ways of putting it, like choosing authenticity over fitting in, living with different priorities in the majority, wanting more from life, refusing to settle, that kind of idea. So there's two kind of things I'm going to leave you with during this presentation. The first, it's basically, okay, when I spend time with others who are doing brave things, I know I leave feeling aligned, light, energized, connected to my why. Like when I spend spaces like this, doing things like we're doing right now, I feel like better about the way I'm living my life. And I can really picture no better investment in my physical and emotional health, as well as like my business success for me as an entrepreneur. So I know I need to be doing more of that. So what I want to know is like, would you guys find value in doing this too? And would you have any interest in being part of this community? Okay, these are my last two quotes I wanted to leave you with. Thank you for listening to that. Faith and fear, and I think Paige shared this one too. Paige, you gave me so much gold for this. Faith and fear both demand that you believe in something you cannot see. You choose. Bob Proctor. And then this is more so for me, and that's my tattoo on the right. From nothing comes nothing. The idea that, you know, if you want to change something, change something. The worst case scenario is not that it doesn't work out. It's that you get to the end of your life, didn't try, and wish you had. Reframing the worst case scenario. Okay, I did really good, guys. We're only 2 minutes over. I'm actually really proud of myself on that. But that is that. What did we think? Was this helpful? Good? Feel free to speak or put things in the chat. It really means the world to me that you all came and listened and took this time.